Hey, what is going on, everybody? It's Project Fat. We're back with another episode of the Lockdown Podcast. I am here alongside my co-host, Star. We are going to go ahead and talk about our season review at this point in time, kind of where we're at here as we are getting to the midpoint of the season, of our last season here in this Madden cycle. We're also going to talk about our biggest surprise and disappointment year so far in this season. We're going to go ahead and touch base with the Atlanta Falcons owner in Captain Planet, which is going to kind of segue us into our last topic, which is going to be the top 5 shout out. The guys that have gotten into the top 5, some new guys in there as well, and we're going to go ahead and end the show at that point in time. But so we're going to go ahead and jump right away into the first topic, which is going to be our season review. And it's definitely been a kind of interesting season. There's been a lot of stuff going on, a lot of teams that are a little surprising. I know we did my look through the playoff picture last episode, and it's not really panning out. It's kind of making me look bad a little bit, so I really appreciate it. Some guys will kind of step up here, so it's kind of interesting what's going on right now, but it's also kind of cool to see some guys that you don't typically see towards the top of the divisions here in the playoff picture. So it's very, very fun. So I'm going to go ahead and throw it over to Star real quick, once again, my co-host, and kind of touch base with him first in what the playoff picture is looking like, as well as our midpoint here in the season for the grid. What do you think right now is kind of the biggest surprise here in the grid at this point in the season?
Well, first off, at this point, our predictions in the last episode, we were way off. I mean, we're looking pretty bad right now, man.
We're definitely looking pretty bad.
But my biggest surprise so far has been the Minnesota Vikings. These guys really haven't been relevant. They usually get off to the hot start, but fade off real quickly, and really have never been in and around the playoff picture once you get towards the end of the season. But they're looking really good so far this year. I mean, they're 5-3, but what's more impressive to me is Teddy Bridgewater, their starting quarterback, went down early on in the year, and they've had George Clausen, the one-year player out of Wisconsin, 6'1", 205 pounds, come in, and he's played extremely well, especially for a player he's never had the time in the system to grow and the time out there with the starters on football Sunday and play under the big lights. And he's really helped this team get to where they are now, and the Bears have really owned this division as of late, and the Minnesota Vikings actually went out and were able to beat the Bears and beat them pretty handily in their first meeting so far this season. So I would say they're my biggest surprise.
Yeah, and I was actually kind of leaning towards that point too, and you kind of talked about how earlier in the season the Minnesota Vikings were able to come out victorious over the Chicago Bears, which was actually on the road in Chicago. But with that being said, Chicago just came into Minnesota and beat them handily 30-6. But the biggest story in that game was actually Kent Gunn, who's really been the difference maker on this offense. 33 receptions, 659 yards, as well as 3 touchdown passes receptions on the year. He actually just got hurt. He's going to be out for, I think it looks like 5 to 6 weeks is what it's going to be for him. So that's really going to be a big issue for the Minnesota Vikings. They kind of lean on him. Like you said, Bridgewater being injured early on, Clausen was able to really lean on Kent Gunn and be like, look, man, let's help us win some games here. So they definitely obviously have a lot more weapons on this team. Treadwell's playing well, as well as Diggs and Sowell on this team. So they also still have Willie Snead kind of down on their depth chart as well. So they have a lot of other weapons. But with Gunn going down, it's really going to be interesting to me to see what they're going to be able to do moving forward here in the season, simply because, like I said, that's really been their biggest reason for the offense being as good as it has been here in the grid this year. So, but we'll have to wait and see. It's still early on, we're only halfway through, but it's really going to be a tough hill for them to climb as they do lead the division. But like I said, they did just lose to the Chicago Bears, which is going to make it a little bit more difficult. But I'm going to go ahead and jump into the other side of things, because I agree with your take.
Before you do,
yeah,
to touch on Gunn, like you said, he's been spectacular. This is an offensive-minded team, So that is a huge, huge blow. I mean, he's by far their best player. So the fact that he's out for the next 5 weeks with a dislocated elbow, I think that's going to fit the narrative that the Minnesota Vikings get off to this nice start, and we're going to see them just slip and slide straight down into the hole for the rest of the season. And once we get to the end of the season, they will not be relevant at all.
Right, and I definitely kind of agree with what you're saying, and I think that the only way that they're not going to slip and fall and be completely irrelevant by the end of the year is the defense is really going to have to step up. I haven't really been impressed by them so far. The offense has been kind of been able to carry them. Like I said, Kent Gunn is just, he's an animal. He's a specimen beyond belief. And there's really nobody.
6'2", 440. The guy, he's a freak.
Exactly. And there's really been nobody in the league that's been able to match up with this guy. It doesn't matter what you do, double team him, triple team him. It hasn't really mattered. So the defense is really going to have to step up if the Vikings want to keep pace with the Chicago Bears and be able to get into the playoffs. And the NFC is looking really, really tough once again. There's a lot of teams. I mean, let's kind of look at it. 8-0 for the Saints. I'm not going to touch on that too much because I don't want to blow the ego, too much there.
We're dominating, baby.
We're going to move past that real quick. The Los Angeles Rams sit at 6-2, Giants 6-2, Vikings, as we're talking about, 5-3, Niners 5-2, Panthers 5-3, Cowboys 5-3, Bears 5-3, Hawks 5-3 So, and then the Eagles.
The Panthers is another one. I hate to cut you off again, but they were the other team I was thinking as a surprise to me, especially in the NFC. They had a relatively down year last year. They were another team like the Vikings, got off to a nice start, but really, really fell off. But new ownership came in towards the end of last season, and it looks like they've been playing really well this year. So it'll be interesting to see how it unfolds. They're looking like they can potentially make a push for the wild card. Derek Carr is playing out of his mind at this point, so they are definitely another one of those surprise teams for me.
Yeah, and obviously, they lost to those Saints who are currently undefeated on the year in Week 5, but they then went on and beat the Steelers, the Ravens, the Bucks. They did lose to the Giants here most recently, but like you said, they're very, very impressive. They had a pretty good, impressive home stretch there for their team. So, the Panthers are looking really, really good as well. So like I said, the NFC is just really, really tough, and that's what kind of makes it difficult for the Vikings. If Kent Gunn, if they can't do anything without him in the lineup for the next 5 weeks, it's really going to be hard for them to stay in the playoff picture. So the defense really needs to step up and make a difference for this team. But on the other side of things, I think there's a lot of teams that you can make arguments for as far as the most disappointing team to this point in the season. But
there's two that really stick out to me more than any other.
Well, and one for me especially is, once again, I think you really look at the previous season, obviously, what they did last year and what they're doing this year, and the Houston Texans is one for me. They made the playoffs this year.
Yep, that's one of mine as well.
Exactly. So they made the playoffs last year. They were able to, win the first round matchup against the Baltimore Ravens and kind of get semi-deep into the playoffs. But now this year they've only won one game on the year to this point. So that's definitely an upsetting, look right now to this point for that team, because I think they're much more capable than that one victory that they have on the year. So that's one of the teams definitely that I think is the most disappointing to this point on the AFC side of things. They're not an easy division by any means. The Jacksonville Jaguars are 8-0 on the year. Then they still have to fight with the Colts and the Titans as well. But 1-7 just doesn't cut it for me. You're a playoff team the previous year. They didn't really change a whole lot. I think they added more pieces than they lost, and yet they're having a much worse season than they did last year. So, in my opinion, the Houston Texans are really falling off. They're having an absolutely terrible season, in my opinion, just based off what they did last year. And at this point in time, halfway mark into the season, I think they're hands down the most disappointing team here in the grid.
Yeah, like I said, there were really two teams that stuck out in my mind as the biggest disappointment, and they were one of them. Like you said, I mean, to reiterate all your points, playoff team, they got better if you really look at their off-season moves, and it's not showing on the field. They only have one win on the season. I believe they won 9 games last year and managed to get that 6th seed, and as you touched on, won their first-round playoff matchup. So, I don't know what's going on there, but ownership, coaching, they really got to make some sort of change if they want to have any attempt at salvaging this season. Although 1-7, you may not be able to salvage the season at this point. But to go over to the flip side on the NFC side, one of those other teams of those two that I said were clear-cut big disappointments, the Tampa Bay Bucks. These guys went 11-5 last year and really gave my New Orleans Saints a run for our money in terms of winning the division. It came down to the final 2 weeks. And I believe they lost their first-round playoff matchup, but still they were a very competitive team. No easy team. No one really... You don't go into a matchup with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last season thinking, okay, this is going to be easy by any stretch of the means. You're going into that matchup sweating a little bit. And to see them 2-6 right now, in third place in the NFC South, and towards the bottom of the NFC as a whole. I mean, McCree has really fallen off, who was the reigning MVP last year. He's still having a solid year, but in terms of what he did last year and the MVP caliber player he is, just as a whole, that entire team is really, really struggling, defensively especially. I mean, it's like open season pretty much. Talk about Swiss cheese defense. These guys can't stop anybody. So for me, they're the biggest disappointment on the NFC side, and like I said, the Texans on the AFC side, my biggest disappointment.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. And like you said with the Tampa Bay team, they only lost 5 games all of last year. They're already at 6 losses on the season here this year, only halfway through. So that definitely makes it difficult. And once coming into the season, I'll admit it. I'll be the first one to say I picked them to win this division again this year. And it has definitely not panned out to be that way.
Remind me again why I'm your partner on this podcast.
I don't know, honestly.
Because I'm second guessing it here.
Yeah. So, I mean, we all are, honestly. Everybody is. But, and I'll be the first to say, it wasn't, to talk bad about the Saints, because obviously they're very, very impressive. They made it into the playoffs and were a team to be reckoned with all year long last year, obviously, to this point, 8-0. I just felt like for some reason the Bucs had a little bit more, and I honestly might have been leaning on the whole MVP talk with McCree. That might have been a big part. That definitely, actually, not might have been. It was a big part of my decision-making process for that Buccaneers team.
I can't blame you for that.
Yeah,
he's a beast. Can't blame you for that.
Right, and if you can run the ball and you can play defense, which the Bucs can do, I feel like you own the possession in the game, and I think that makes it difficult for anybody to beat you. So that's what I was really leaning on. And like you said, McCree has still been very impressive. He's still leading the league in rushing to this point. But like I said, that defense is not where it needs to be. It's giving up a lot more than what I anticipated. And I think obviously what they anticipated there in Tampa. But it is what it is at this point. Once again, that's why we play the games every single week, is you never know what's going to happen. But I think that's a great point. The Bucs are definitely probably the biggest disappointment in the NFC to this point. So with that being said, let's go ahead and take a quick look at the division leaders to this point, halfway through the season. We got the AFC East, the Buffalo Bills. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. The New York Jets and the Miami Dolphins have both been very, very impressive to this point here in the season. They're obviously still a couple games behind the Buffalo Bills, but the Bills are the reigning Super Bowl champions. So with them only being a couple games out, they still have a very, very good chance of winning that division, as well as making the playoffs and possibly making a run past those Bills. The Baltimore Ravens currently sitting at 4-3 over the Cleveland Browns. Jacksonville Jaguars yet to lose a game at 8-0. I think right now they're definitely in control of their own destiny. They have the biggest shot at the first round bye at 8-0, and then the San Diego Chargers are currently leading at 4-3 with the Broncos sitting at 4-4. Obviously, the Chargers currently lead that division because they have one less loss on their record. But that's a division we kind of talked about at the beginning of the season as being one of the most interesting divisions and possibly closest division battles here in the grid this year. The Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah, I mean, all 4 teams are just so close together. The competition.
Yeah.
They all know each other so well. The teams are so similarly put together, and it's like we called it. I mean, that's one of the few things I'd say we may have been correct about in our second episode, Fat.
Well,
this AFC West.
Yeah, and with the Chiefs, man, I mean, they're sitting at 2-6, last place in that division, but I don't think they're getting enough credit. They played some pretty good games this year, very, very close throughout the whole season. I don't think they're getting enough credit. I just think that they are slightly behind the 8 ball as far as the rest of those teams go there in that division, but they're only 2 games out of the lead, so
Exactly, and that's what they should focus on. Yeah, we're 2-6, but we are only 2 games out, and we still have the entire second half of the season to play. So
exactly,
they're not out of it by any
and
stretch
all you
of
can
the
think
imagination.
Of at this point is, let's make it into the playoffs. Even if you come in as a wild card, you never know. That's the point. Make the playoffs. It's one game at a time from that point moving forward. You don't necessarily have to be the best team throughout the regular season. You just have to be the best team in the playoffs, and the Chiefs can definitely do that. So they just need to focus on playing well within the division, win their divisional games throughout the remaining of the season. They can definitely make the playoffs and potentially be the wild card or the division winner and be a big difference maker there in the AFC. And so moving over to the NFC, the Los Angeles Rams, and nobody's surprised, are sitting at 6-2, but they had the San Francisco 49ers at 5-2 and the Seattle Seahawks at 5-3. Slightly, surprising to me, by far the best division race so far. And the Cardinals are only sitting at 3-5, only a few games back as well. So definitely
right. And the Seahawks, they're another one that you can put in there for the most surprising. I mean, that's an honorable mention. And then you talk about the 49ers. They started 0-2, and they've rattled off 5 straight wins. And then you have the Rams, who have been in the Super Bowl the last 3 years, winning 1 of the 3. So I'm going to say that's the most exciting race as well. That it's going to be really interesting to see how that unfolds. And that San Francisco LA Rams rivalry is real. That might be the biggest rivalry in the grid right now when you're talking the 2 respective owners. These guys just, the heat, and it's crazy. I mean, these guys are so heated with each other, and they take it out on the field, and every game is super, super close. It's awesome, really. It's probably my favorite rivalry in the grid.
No, it's definitely fun to watch, and the Niners have already won the first matchup here on the season against these Los Angeles Rams, 20-3. They were at home, and actually the next matchup here in Week 9 is going to be those Rams and 49ers once again. So that could definitely be the difference maker here in this division.
Yep, I'm gonna say that. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say whoever wins that matchup wins the division.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I won't argue that point either, especially since the Niners already did win that division. The Rams have a game up on them, but because of that division matchup, the Niners are able to beat them next week. And the Rams are coming off a really difficult loss against the Cowboys. They lost 41-23. The defense, really didn't stand up there against those Cowboys, but obviously they're going to look to rebound from that. They are going to be at home this time, as the Niners did win at home last time around against this team, and I don't think Los Angeles is really an easy place, but that's going to be a big point in the season for the Rams. They are going to be heading into their bye week, so it's definitely going to be an important matchup for them. So then we look at the NFC South. Once again, I don't want to touch on it too much, but those New Orleans Saints, oh my goodness.
I'm running away with this thing. We can just move on. It's a given. I'm winning this thing.
Panthers sitting at 5-3, really the only shot to do anything in that division outside of the Saints, but I really think at this point they're too far behind. And then moving on to the NFC North, the Minnesota Vikings and the Chicago Bears are both sitting at 5-3. Like we said, I think we mentioned the Vikings did win the first matchup around the Bears, but then won the second matchup against them. So Lions and Packers both sitting at 2-5. I think they're kind of a minute point here at this point in the season. So it's going to be coming down to the Minnesota Vikings and the Chicago Bears. I really, really believe in the Minnesota Vikings. Even though they lost Kent Gunn, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that they're going to be able to find a way to win. It's going to start with that running game, controlling possession, not turning the ball over. The defense is going to come up big for them. So I will say that the Minnesota Vikings are going to still win this division, even though Kent Gunn is out for the next 5 weeks. And then on to the NFC East. Could be an argument for another one of the best divisions here in the grid.
Wait. Did you just say you think the Vikings are going to win the division?
Yeah, I don't think Hop has what it takes to hold it down throughout the rest of the year. And I think the Vikings, like I said, are going to win that division.
I am strongly disagreeing with you on that one.
Well,
no way the Vikings... you know what? I'm going to say this. The Vikings will finish 8-8. They're going to collapse like they always do. Their best player is gone for the next 5 weeks. Their defense has never been that great. They've always been an offensive powerhouse, and without him, I really don't think they're anything too special. Teddy Bridgewater isn't in there either. I think Hop runs away with this division, honestly.
Well, I'm going to sit here and say, Tout, listen, man, I believe you, okay?
Hop, if you make me look bad,
he's going to. Just
you're dead to me.
just understand Hop is going to make you look bad. It's okay, though, because Towns is going to come out on top. He's going to come out victorious. He's going to find a way to win some games. It may not be as
no way, man, no way.
I'm telling you, man. Only time will tell. We will find out here soon enough. We only have half the season to go, but I really think those Vikings are going to come out on top. You say the Bears. We will wait and see. We'll come back in a few weeks here, and we'll kind of see where we're at going into the final weeks of the season. And then finally on to the NFC East. Another division that could potentially be one of the best divisions of football if it wasn't for those 0-8 Washington Redskins. I hate to give it to y'all, but not won a game yet. And I think, that's a bummer right there. You have a team here in the grid to not win a game. I'm sorry, Notch, I hate to give it to you, but I'm going to anyways. 0-8 on the year. But
does he win a game, Fat? What do you think? Or does he just go on 16?
Hold on, let's give me a second here. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the schedule, see what we've got coming
up. Let's see what we've got here, because...
All right, so...
Has that ever been done? I don't think that's ever been done in the grid before. 0-16?
I don't know. It's probably been very close. I don't know if it has been, but they did just lose, obviously, 0-8. They haven't won yet. So they did just lose 30-14 against those Indianapolis Colts, which are not an easy team. So let's look at the schedule they've had so far. They lost to the Vikings, 35-22. Then the Giants, not an easy game. The Texans, their only win on the year for the Texans was 28-14. The Texans were at home that week. The Cowboys, they were on the road against Dallas. They lost a 7-6 game against the Seattle Seahawks in Week 5, 7-6. Very, very close game. Very defensive.
Yeah, not bad. And Seattle's been doing well. So
very well. And that obviously has been their closest chance at winning this year. And then they went on the road against the Detroit Lions. They lost 6-17 there. Then they went home against the Dallas Cowboys. Not able to come out victorious there. The Cowboys are not an easy team though by any means. Then at home again, 30-14. So let's look at the remainder of the schedule. They are on a bye week this week here in Week 9. They play the Chicago Bears. That is not going to be a win.
That's a loss.
That's a loss. They play the Jacksonville Jaguars next.
That's a loss.
That's a loss, exactly. Then we got the New York Giants.
That's a loss.
That's a loss. Then we have the Philadelphia Eagles.
That's a loss.
They're on the road against the Eagles. I think that's a loss as well. So this right here, Week 14, could be their best opportunity to win a game. If they don't win in Week 14, I do not think they win a game this year. In Week 14, they will be playing the Green Bay Packers at home. And I think that's
a loss. Winnable game, yes, but I think that's a loss.
So if that happens, they then go on the road to Tennessee, on the road to Atlanta, and although Atlanta only has one win on the season as well, I don't think they're going to win that game. And then they are then at home to finish the year against the Philadelphia Eagles once again. So they played the Eagles twice in the last 5 weeks of the season, and I don't think they win either one of those games. So Week 14 is the game I'm looking at as far as their only chance to win. Yes, sir, against those Green Bay Packers.
For me, I think they can get it done versus either the Titans or the Falcons. So I'm gonna say they're gonna finish 1-15.
And I don't know, man. That's definitely not an easy schedule by any means to finish out the year. Even though those records don't really, speak too much volumes to what these teams are doing. But I don't think that's an easy schedule by any means. And then obviously in that East, the Eagles are 4-4, Cowboys 5-3, who they've already played twice and lost to, and then the New York Giants at 6-2. I really think this is going to come down. I said earlier in the year the Eagles were going to win that division. I don't believe that anymore. It's going to come down to the Giants or the Cowboys in that division. I'm sorry. And I think it's going to be the Dallas Cowboys. I think it's going to be the Cowboys.
The Giants.
Dude, why can't we why don't we agree on anything? Like, what is going on?
Kick rocks, man. I'm clearly the better looking and the smarter analyst here.
Oh my goodness, I'm so over this. I'm done with it. I don't want to deal with this anymore. But whatever. We're gonna move on from that. So that's a look at the season so far. We talked about our biggest surprises and disappointments. So we're gonna take a quick moment here. We were trying to bring somebody new onto the show, so we were able to get the owner of those 1-7 Atlanta Falcons. So we're going to go ahead and get him on here for a few minutes, kind of talk to him about his season so far. Obviously, I don't think it's been what they expected coming into the year. They are sitting at 1-7. They really don't have a shot at making the playoffs. But we're going to kind of talk to that team a little bit, get to know the ownership as well, and kind of talk to them about what's going on with the season and see if they what they plan on doing here for the rest of the year. So let's go ahead and take a quick minute and talk with them.
Hey guys, what's up? Excited to have this opportunity to get to come on you guys' show and talk a little bit about my Falcons. avid listener to the show. You guys do a great job. Thanks for having me on. Anyway, about the season, it's been disappointing to say the least so far. Really all around, all three phases. Special teams, we've missed field goals we shouldn't have missed. Shank punts, pretty much as bad as we can be. Offense, we've been subpar too. We're actually ranked last in the league in 3 out of 4 categories. But running back, Devontae Freeman, he's had struggles, man. He's probably the worst year of his career. I don't have the stats in front of me, but he's averaging a measly 1.6 yards per carry with only 1 touchdown in his 8 games. But quarterback play has been bad too. Watson struggled the first 5 weeks of the season, throwing for under 600 yards, no touchdowns, 9 interceptions. It's come around here lately. The last 4 weeks, he's had 629 yards, 5 TDs, 6 interceptions. Still not quite what we want from the guy, but I mean, it's definitely an improvement, and hopefully he'll continue that trend of turning it around. The big guys up front, they're not making it any easier, allowing 25 sacks, not really creating holes for Freeman to get through. So it's not all on the skill position guys on offense. The big guys are having their struggles too. Defensively, we've actually been solid on that side of the ball, considering time of possession is heavily favored in our opponents per game. So the defense is out there a lot, but they've been holding it down. Linebacker Adonis Gash has kind of been our leader so far this year, leading the team with 22 tackles. He's got 3 sacks and 2 interceptions. But we really need to work on that side of the ball too. Nothing's great. Sitting at 1-7, we have lots of room for improvement. But touching on what you guys said earlier about my Week 16 matchup with the Skins, and how they, it's going to be their first win of the season, but we got some big news concerning that. As soon as rookie running back Kevin Wayford is healthy, he's going to return and be the starter for our team. We're hoping he can be a change of pace, that spark that our offense really needs to maybe get this thing going, not only to beat the Skins in Week 16, but, get this season turned around. That's our hopes anyway. The kid's been working hard, learning the playbook. He hadn't been doing too much on the field activity because of his injury, but he's learning the blocking schemes. He's really fitting in well with the clubhouse, and we believe he's earned this opportunity to be our starter. But that's about it, guys. And like I said, it's been a pleasure being on. Thanks again. Hopefully next time we talk, won't be as struggling. We'll be better than 1-7. But anyway, thanks again, guys.
All right, and thank you, Captain Planet, for coming on with us. I really, really appreciate that. Owner of the Atlanta Falcons once again. Phenomenal having you on the show. I really appreciate you coming out. Myself and Star, I know we both appreciate it. So, with after talking to him, we're going to go ahead and end the show once again like we have for the last few times. So we're going to go ahead and take a shout out to our top 5. And it was actually just released. So this is the newest, and actually the great segue. I know, as you said, Star, going into this point after we just talked to our Atlanta Falcons owner, a good segue going into this top 5. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you, as you are, one of the people that work on this top 5 list. It's definitely not easy to, make up and bring together, for us here in the grid. So I'm going to go ahead and throw it over to you for a quick minute as you go ahead and tell us who the newest top 5 here in the grid is to make it into the NBL.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, it's not easy, and we had just released a new top 5 right before we started recording tonight. And it was tough. There are a lot of guys that are really elevating their game and their contribution. So big shout out to all of those guys. But specifically, I want to give a nice shout out to this top 5. We have number 1, the owner of the Indianapolis Colts, Brawler. At number 2, the owner of the Redskins, Notch. At number 3, the owner of the Packers, Matty Live, draft guru. He's been on here before, and I'm pretty sure you guys will hear from him again soon. Number 4, one of the newer guys, his first time on the list in a while, if I could remember correctly, Tout. the owner of the Vikings. We've talked about him quite a bit on this episode. And number 5, who you guys just heard from, Captain Planet, the owner of the Atlanta Falcons. Big shout out to these guys and all the contributions. You know what I mean? They've really been stepping up their game, helping out in more than one way. For example, Captain Planet helping out on the film review team. I mean, all these guys really are hungry and motivated to help the community grow and help out in any way, which is why they are where they are today. So thank you guys. We really appreciate all the work you're doing.
Yes, and like he said, thank y'all for all the work that you guys are doing. And it's definitely not going unnoticed. These guys, the admin team is really, really focusing on everybody that is making a difference here in the grid and bringing out continuous content to everybody. That's what makes this league great. Once again, we say it every single week. I'll continue to say it because it's the truth. But that's what makes this league different than any other league. Is the content that everybody produces, whether it goes from blogs to podcasts to whatever it may be, the live shows and things like that. So we really, really appreciate it. Top 5 making it into the MPL is obviously an important thing. The team selection is something we're really going to touch on with the next show once it is finalized.
I can't wait for that, Fat. I don't know about you. I'm stoked, man.
I'm definitely stoked. I think it's always an exciting time of the year is, when the new Madden is coming out. Again, I've had the opportunity to play it, and I kind of hate the fact that I get to play it really usually every year because it makes me dislike the game that I'm currently playing. But hey, it's probably just because I'm bad at it too. I guess that kind of goes together. But it's a great time of year. Team selection is coming up. We're going to really touch on that next episode as the list will be finalized at that point in time. And hopefully by then as well, we will have a finalization on when the team selection will be taking place. It will most likely happen after the NBL team selection, which will be live. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that as well. You don't want to miss it. Obviously, all the live broadcasts that the NBL does is very, very important to what we do here. So keep an eye out for that also. But like I said, team selection, we will touch on that more, give you guys a better idea of where everybody is selected, maybe give a few ideas on some surprises that we think could be coming in the team selection for the grid next year. So thank y'all for tuning in with us. We really, really appreciate it. And we will be back here once again in a couple of weeks as we look to wrap up the final season here in this Madden cycle and get ready to get hyped up for Madden 18, man. I don't know how you feel about it, but I am super, super excited for that. So thank y'all once again. Baby. Yeah, it's exciting, man. But so thank y'all once again. I really appreciate it. Myself and Star, we will be back here in a couple of weeks, and we'll touch on some new topics. So thank y'all for joining us.